Hello, I'm James Patterson, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use adjustment layers to alter the colours and tones in your images with ultimate control. And the first adjustment I'm going to make is one that's probably the most important of all, which is to boost the tones by increasing the contrast. Often files straight out of a digital camera are quite flat in colour and tone, so we can use adjustment layers to really make the most of them by boosting the contrast. So let's click on the create new fill or adjustment layer, which is this circular icon at the bottom of the layers panel here. This will give us our list of adjustment layers. Alternatively, you can go through the menus up here in these different tabs by going to layer and new adjustment layer, and this will give you the exact same list of adjustment layer options. So let's go through the icon here and choose curves. This will bring up my curves panel here, and I have a line here that I can drag to the left corner here or down into the bottom right corner down here to lighten or darken the image. But what's great about using curves is I can add more points along my line to allow me to lighten or darken certain areas within my image. So if I drag down up here, I'm darkening the highlights. If I drag up at the bottom here, I'm lightening the shadows. This is mapped onto my histogram here, which you can see kind of faded into the background. So this area of my histogram along here is the darker tones. This area here represents the lighter tones, and you can see as the peaks are higher up here, I have more lighter tones in my image than darker tones. Now, one of the most common adjustments is to make an S-shaped curve, and this will boost the contrast. So I'm just going to drag these points off my curve just by dragging them outside of the box there to get rid of them. And then I'm going to make a new point down here and drag down, and a second point up here and drag up. And this will create a simple S-shaped curve that boosts the contrast in the scene. And the more pronounced the S, the more contrast there is. But we want to keep it quite subtle. I think something like that would work nicely. And I'm happy with how that adjustment's working, so let's turn off the adjustments panel for the moment and go back to our layers panel here, and you can see how my adjustment has appeared on a layer above my background layer. Let's just make this slightly larger so you can see more clearly. So I have my curves adjustment here and my background layer completely untouched, so I can turn that adjustment off and go back to my original image if I want. Let's turn it back on. More importantly, I can also go back into that adjustment and change it. So let's say I think the contrast is too strong and it's bleaching out the highlights slightly. So let's double click on this icon here in my layer thumbnail to re-access my adjustments panel, and now I can alter my points here on my curve to make the contrast slightly more subtle. Now let's turn off my curves and we'll add another adjustment layer. So let's click on the create adjustment layer icon again. This time let's choose hue saturation. And this brings up my hue saturation options in the adjustments panel. And I can use the hue slider to alter the colors in the scene to map a different color range onto my image. I can also boost the colors with the saturation slider. You need to be careful with this one because it can make things look a little bit radioactive. Let's maybe bring the hue to about 35, I think. That's working quite well. Let's turn that off. And then let's quickly add another adjustment layer. So I'll turn off my hue saturation, go back to my create adjustment layer icon, and this time let's choose photo filter, this one here. Now you can choose different presets as you can in many of the adjustment layer menus. So let's choose cooling filter 80. And then you can change the density of this filter to make the image much cooler as well if we like. Let's set it to about 50, I think. There we go. So you can see how we can use these different adjustment layers to very quickly alter the feel and the tone in our images. And once again, it's worth mentioning that each of these adjustments I've made is completely editable. You simply click on the relevant adjustment layer and then go back into the adjustments panel and reapply different settings. That's it. Thanks very much for watching.